Hello. Good eve Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
Hello,
Go ahead.
everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. And for starting the webinar, I give our HOD, Department of Sociology, Holy Cross, to introduce and welcome our chief speakers to this webinar. Ma'am, you can over to you.
Thank you. A very good evening to all the attendees, respected principal, esteemed guests, faculty members, research scholar, and students who have joined us today. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome all in one-day national webinar on the theme of social challenges and importance of self-management during COVID-19 pandemic, organized by the Sociology Department, Holy Cross College, Agartala. The COVID-19 has significantly disrupted the socio-economic and political system in all over the world. While the nationwide lockdown was imposed in India, it has resulted in financial losses, healthcare challenges, confusing education system, and many more problems in our country. In this regard, I quote Swami Vivekananda. We want Shraddha, that means respect. We want faith in ourselves. Strength is life, weakness is death. The idea of true respect must be brought back once again to us. The faith in our own self must be reawakened, and then only all the problems which are faced by our country will be gradually solved by us. Unquote. The students, youth, and the adults of our country are the bricks of the nation, which need to hold by a strong foundation. And for this, we believe each individual should realize the need of self-management and understand the self-efficacy. Today, we have very interesting and enlightening lectures lined up by very reputed, learned, and enthusiastic resource persons who will take our expertise away from the upcoming live sessions. So please stay tuned. I would like to take the opportunity to present the topics of the webinar. First topic is about coping with stress and mental health challenges in the context of COVID-19 by Professor Dr. ANIMESH Bahadur sir. And the second topic is about social challenges and the self-management by Professor Dr. Birpal Singh sir. Today, we have unique blend that was never discussed before in the sociology department, which is not only sociological but psychological insight. Before we move on the welcome address, I would like to gently remind all the attendees who have joined us in the Google Meet as well as in the Facebook Live. Please stay with us till the end of the webinar to access the feedback link, and don't forget to post your queries of any in the live chat box after completion of the presentation. Now I request our principal, Reverend Dr. Father Benny K. Jones CSC for deliver the welcome speech. Father, please take the charge. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Minister. A very good afternoon to all of you, and it is my privilege and honor to say a short word of welcome to all of you. And we had been many days, we are now attending webinars after webinar, till we have a very relevant theme today, as the sociology department has taken all the care and put in a lot of effort. I congratulate at the very outset Dr. Sharmista and her team, who have gone about organizing this very relevant topic for us, social challenges and the importance of self-management during this pandemic time. And we have experts in the persons of Professor Dr. Animesh Bahadur and Professor Birbal Singh. We look forward to your expertise, your sharing, and like to get enlightened and even helped in that sense. And it is our privilege to spend time with you and to share even our own experience. Thank you very much, our resource persons, Professor ANIMESH and Professor Birbal Singh, for your time, your goodwill, and your in a way finding time for us at this time to share your valuable time, and above all your knowledge, your goodwill with us. It's a great encouragement for us as an college and department students. We have teachers, scholars, various people participating in that one, professionals and all, including that one. We are very happy to have you all, and I extend a warm welcome to all of you, all of all of you who are part of this webinar. Before concluding, I myself should acknowledge that actually last 2 weeks, practically every day I had been part of 2 hours to 3 hours webinars, and I am going through a webinar fatigue, so to say, almost. So this topic becomes all the more relevant for me. I will be paying keen attention and will be following your lectures and sharings, and I look forward to a good time together. Thank you once again, and welcoming you warmly, and good day. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Now, our first speakers. I'm Cindy and I'm from the Department of Holy Cross College, and I would like to introduce our today's first speaker, Professor ANIMESH BAHADUR. He is the Chairperson of Human Resource Management, Organizational Behavior and Communication Area at TAPMI Management Institute, Manipal, Udupi. He has 13 years of experience in the academic and 2 years of experience in journalism. He was also involved with consultancy for non-profit organizations and social enterprises since 1996, including conduct of strategic reviews, social audit, and conduct of MDPs. His papers have been published in journals, international and national journals. He has also presented many papers in conference, seminars, workshops, and in the capacity of paper presenters, resource person, key speaker, chairing the session, organizing it, etc. And today, he will be presenting to us on the topic, coping with stress and mental health challenges in the context of COVID-19. Sir, we welcome you.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. So, should we start or? Yeah, okay. Is the screen visible?
Not that, are you presenting?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
You are clear and we can see you.
What about the presentation?
No, presentation is not at, sir. Not at, you will have.
Okay. It's not going. Is it visible now?
No, not yet, sir. It is still not visible. We can see you, but the presentation has not come on it.
Okay.
Sir, in the right side, there is an option present now.
Okay. Yeah, I've used that option only. I've used that option only, and I've gone to entire screen.
Enter screen.
Yeah. Still, it's not visible. I don't know why.
Sir, then
Yeah.
you just use the window, particular window option also there.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Jildreal, can you?
Now it should be there.
Yes, yes, sir, it is coming. Yes,
Okay,
right.
fine. My apologies for the delay and all the confusion due to the technology. Just one or two things before we start. First issue is there is sometimes a power cut here, so I may be disconnected for not more than a minute. Okay. Fine. So that's one issue.
All right.
Right. So before we start, okay, this is a topic on which more than a researcher, I got involved as a part of a group. There's a group called Hugging Club of India, which basically works on mental health. It's based out of Mumbai, but it has chapters in many other cities also. And as a part of it, I realized what the impact of COVID-19 is happening. And of course, there were a lot of researches which are coming out, and day after day, in any standard newspaper or journal, you would find a lot of news about how there's a coping issue when it comes to COVID-19. So, I mean, just to give a glimpse of things, the panic which happened in the resource poor, particularly the migrants, how to go back. In fact, it's not just that there were certain images on the screens and we were bothered about it, but there was a discernible problem which was faced by anybody who did not have enough resources in the given context. So the poor, the landless, and the people who did not have a standard home or shelter, everybody was in panic. And this was a collective emotion that we need to do something or we need to run away. Fight and flight, as we say. Then, of course, just before joining for this particular conference, I just read that there was a 41-year-old painter who also committed suicide recently. It's yesterday or today only. In fact, the more I'm going through the Hugging Club, the more I'm finding the cases of suicides. Yes, this is an issue which we have been reading in newspapers and other places, the rise in domestic violence. Then if overall, if you look at it, there is a sense of despondency arising, as we were discussing, from loss of income, loss of jobs, loss of opportunity, delay in opportunities, many of the things. And another thing which is perhaps very disturbing at the very micro level is what's happening to our relationships. Relationships at many levels, relationship between friends, relationship between relatives, and many of those things are getting together and are causing a lot of friction. In fact, there was news in the beginning of the lockdown itself that the number of people in China who are reporting for divorces or filing for separation has suddenly increased after the lockdown. And overall, if you look at it, we look at somebody, if the person is coming near us, that's the first level of distrust we have. We don't want that person near us because this person not being known to us could actually transmit the disease to us. We have distrust based on class and caste, increasing manifold. That whatever were my practices of caste in the past, to discriminate, to be away from others, of untouchability, I'm actually utilizing this time to justify them. Distrust in terms of class. You are poor, that's why I'm not going to trust you that you are actually safe. So this distrust has its own social dimensions, definitely, but what are the mental dimensions? What is happening? It's not simply that we have created a context where there's a problem. The problem is actually manifesting at the way we think, at the way we behave, and at the way we are perhaps looking at the future also. So let us look at it. The issue is, it's not simply a context and environment or what we call matter. It's a lot about what we think and what we feel. That is the mind. First is, COVID-19 is a situation nobody can say is in control of. From the Prime Minister and President to the US President to anybody, nobody can say that you are in control of that. And because we are not in control, obviously it's a stressor. And I'm specifically referring to stressor in the sense it is very difficult to cope because of the problems or the challenges being posed by it. So it's the coping factor which I'm looking at when I'm talking of stressors. What are the sources of stress? Both pandemic and both the actions related to it. As we were discussing, as Madam Chairperson Madam in the beginning had pointed out, it's not simply that the COVID situation has happened, but because certain actions were taken, people lost their jobs and other things also happened. Most of the researchers which have happened in this field, whether they are sociological researchers, and a lot has happened in psychotherapy and psychology, all those are showing that there's a linkage. People's mental health situation has changed. I will not say deteriorated or whatever, but there is definitely a change in most of the people. For example, there are studies which are finding at 100% level, anxieties have risen. Whichever sample they are taking, and these are random samples, the studies I'm talking of are typically random sample. In random samples, 100% anxiety rise. That's what is being reported. There are some discernible patterns also. Anxieties definitely would be higher based on gender. Females tend to have higher levels of anxieties and other issues. It's many of the social factors and many other factors. We can discuss that later. And of course, being a group of people who are into social sciences, this need not be explained. There are a lot of social pressures and other reasons because of this, which this is happening. Definitely, anybody else, apart from gender, other vulnerabilities. You are in a situation where you don't have control, and as a vulnerable individual, even less control. And that's why you will find patterns where these things are manifesting much more in certain category of people. And then comes the issue. If all this is happening, how to solve it? The answer we are talking about here is the solution. Solutions are not tailor-made here. Psychotherapists we have spoken to, I mean, continuously through Hugging Club, I spoke to many. Nobody has a clear solution. So what is actually available is a set of things people can do, which sometimes look like motherhood statements. Everybody says that, and perhaps everybody would agree with them, and those kinds of statements come. So in the end, when I'm talking about the answers or the solutions, some may seem like motherhood statement, but I will take the effort to try to explain that yes, there is some content in them, but yeah, the fact is nobody has answers. Most of the things I'm going to talk are very, very commonsensical. We all know them. Through the research studies and discussions with psychotherapists, we are just reinforcing them. We are trying to give some kind of a structure to it, that's all. So coming to the sources. By the way, in case I'm going very fast, if I'm not audible, or if you want to ask any question, please feel free. So starting with the sources. The first source is the pandemic itself. And there are many reasons. First of all, most of us had this feeling, what if it happens to me? And that fear actually caused a lot of problems, and we changed our behaviors accordingly. And when you change your daily routine based on one fear, it does have its manifestations on not being satisfied in life. Then comes the other things. If this happens to me or to people around me or to the larger community I'm working in, what are the consequences? The consequences will be, there will be some kind of an earning loss. The consequences will be that I'll not connect to people. The consequences will be I cannot go out. The consequences will be my children and spouse or whoever it is, whatever they are pursuing, that's not going to continue. Then a very major fear with many people. I just will give one example. One of my friends who is in the US, in one of the counties where the rate of infection is very high, his mother is there with him, who's around 85 years, and she already has a lot of ailments. Every day he used to call me and discuss this fear only. The attachment and that fear that this attachment can get over just because we can be non-discerning in one particular moment and we may have COVID inside our house. Then, of course, we don't have a vaccine. We are all seeing that hospitals are flooded. We don't find what are the solutions. Even if we are asymptomatic and we are put somewhere, we don't know how to deal with it. And that's where another thing happens. And related to it is the last point. Wherever you go, the talk is this disease is causing a havoc. Wherever we go, the talk is that disease does not have a solution. And that's where the media is reinforcing the problem of the pandemic. Then, of course, comes the other side, lockdown. Pandemic was there, a lockdown was imposed, and it has its own manifestations. Many of us are just not comfortable being inside one place. And there can be many reasons. It could be that we are outgoing, as simple as that. It's not very easy for somebody who's outgoing to be confined to their flat or house. The second thing is, what about an individual who's staying in a single room in some urban center and that's the only thing that individual can afford? The moment you come out, police will act on it. The moment you try to interact with somebody outside, people will start actually hiding. That's what typically is happening in Mumbai. The more you talk to people, that's what people are trying to report. It's just being inside, and maybe if you have a laptop, you can spend some time on the laptop. If you have internet, you are lucky perhaps. But what beyond it? What will you do? You'll cook, you'll eat, you'll sleep, you'll write something, you'll watch something. That's it, right? This is not the meaning which we derive out of life, because unfortunately or fortunately, we are in the post-industrial era where going to work or linking with work becomes important. And that's another issue. Although we are all working, we are working in isolation. I'm very lucky. I mean, to be honest, I'm very lucky. I stay on campus. So whenever I want to go to my cabin, go to my office, I can go. But there are a lot of my colleagues who are outside, and the situation in Udupi has suddenly deteriorated. People are being encouraged not to come to office, but then what happens is there are things. This is August. Just because the government is allowed, we have started the new session. Now, because the new session has started, more and more interactions with the students are happening online. Now, at home, as I mentioned, at home, when people, even when sitting in campus, I have a problem of internet. What of the people who have their own internet, private internet connection? They have even more problems. They can't go and discuss with anybody. People talk on phones on hours now. Because there is, perhaps this is one of the ways of dealing with social isolation. So we are working, but we are not together. We are not in person to person. We are not able to do things which were our social expression. So we don't go to restaurants, we don't go to hotels. We are afraid of going there, in fact, out of fear. Obviously, because you are inside, you have limited space, there is less activity. Even for the people who want to do activities, there is a certain sense of lethargy which seeps in. And that's why the activity goes down. And finally, of course, there is this very major issue of boredom. It emerges from many reasons. There is some routine which has been disturbed. There is some addition or embellishment we used to do in our lives that cannot be done. There is something like our personalities. Many people who are extroverts, they are having a lot of problem of dealing with this boredom. And this is even more acute in case of adolescents. We'll come to that a little later. Now, having discussed this, there are a few more things we have to point out. One important issue is, many times this stress is converting to trauma. And this is a study this was a perhaps discussion which happened in the journal Science, which I have quoted here. What I'm talking about trauma is post-traumatic stress or post-traumatic stress disorder, whatever you want to call it. Post-traumatic stress is typically a situation which comes to you when a very major disturbing event happens in your life. Somebody being killed, you watching an accident, going through an accident, all those things are the typical trauma examples, or being a witness to a communal riot or something like that. That causes trauma. COVID-19 isolation is causing trauma to people. And it's not just one case. Time and again, many researchers are repeating that people are going into the trauma condition. Trauma condition is for a continuous long period. I will not be able to feel very, very connected to the world because I am getting those glimpses that something is wrong. Everything is wrong, perhaps. Not something is wrong, everything is wrong. If by any chance you were bipolar, you had stress, anxiety, panic attacks in the past, they are, in most cases, they have increased. And I'm talking of some 10 different psychiatrists who have reported this. People with disabilities, the situations are worse. First of all, the caregivers and social workers are not available. Secondly, if by any chance you were in isolation, somebody was taking care of you, that somebody has to be in their house only. I give one example. I mean, to give one example, there is one lady who's in her 80s in one of the suburbs of Mumbai. Whenever the situation used to be difficult, it would either be neighbors who would come to help her or her nephew who used to come to help her. Now, these people cannot go because, could not go for very long, and even today cannot go because the COVID restrictions are very high. So this lady almost at a crippled stage is doing things on her own, trying to manage things on her own. This is again a problem which is reported in many researches. Old people, we know the impact is high. It's also the younger people where the impact is high. The sense of agony, anxiety is definitely higher in people who are on the two extremes, younger and old. We have already discussed about this issue of decreased income. That's why how to optimize resources and how to deal with the fact that people are around and I have to be very, very friendly with them, helpful to them as a family member. Now that I'm in a difficult situation, I can't connect to people. I have lost my job. I have my problems of perhaps understanding how to deal with the coping issues. I want to connect to a lot of people, meet people, talk to them. This is a time when people don't want to connect. This is the time where people, as Sir was pointing out, people will be ready to attend webinars, but they will not want to have deep relationships. Vouch for it. Vouch for it. If you have to make a 1 hour call, it will be a close friend or a relative with whom you would be talking for 1 hour. Otherwise, people are avoiding. And there is nothing wrong. Nobody has become suddenly a bad individual. The fact is, it's a coping problem for everybody. So the networks which used to empower us, our professional groups and other things which used to empower us, are now limited in the way they can help us. In fact, many people, there used to be this common thing, WhatsApp groups of professional societies and other things. People are quitting them because they have realized that only thing you are finding there is negativity. People have lost job, people have lost business and all that. And that's why the whole network issue of finding my resources, social capital, is suffering. Adolescents have a very special case here. As I was talking of the younger people, adolescents, first of all, this issue is related to the age and the requirements of that particular age. Suddenly, your sleeping increases because of the growth reasons, hormonal changes and other things, your sleep increases. Now that everybody is at home, either you don't have the space to sleep for longer or people are objecting to the fact you are sleeping later. Conflicts which you could escape because you were for much more time at your education spot, those conflicts are actually manifesting in you. And one of the things which happens is because hormonal change also means emotional change, emotional feeling of having a lot of conflict in house is felt very, very strongly right now because you know conflict is happening right in front of you and you don't have an escape out of it. We have discussed that some groups are more vulnerable. We will come to that later also. But as we said, gender-wise, there is an impact. There is also an impact related to people's caste and other factors. Just to reinforce what I have said till now, I'll quote some researchers. These were sample studies, so this is not actually applicable to the whole universe, but these are sample studies which are very instructive. This study was quoted 2 or 3 times. Almost 35% of Chinese are feeling post-traumatic stress. 27% university students in Greece feel severe distress or major depression. Just remember, university student, as most of you would know, that is the stage where your life is changing in a major way. After your graduation is over, life will start for all practical purposes, and all that is getting delayed or becoming uncertain for sure. People with history of suicide have higher rates of depression. Higher rates of depression for sure, yes. And in addition, people who have tried suicide in the past have recently also tried it again. Females double at the risk as far as vulnerability is concerned. Another thing is rise of insomnia, a very major thing which is happening. Because you are at home, you are thinking of certain things, those thoughts continue, and because of those web of thoughts, you are not able to concentrate on sleeping. People are waking up in the perhaps in the middle of sleep or are not able to sleep. There is one study which was done in North India which showed that it's not simply that work situation, income and gender issues are there, but a lot of relationship issues are impacting people because breakups are happening. And perhaps staying together, people have realized that they don't like each other so much. Many of those things are making a change. So we have talked about what is the situation. Why exactly are we facing a situation whereby we are getting sleepless nights? Why are we not able to adjust and feel connected? Why is it that we are having higher anxieties? The answer lies in certain aspects of psychotherapy. I'm just quoting that. Unfortunately, sociology may not have the answers of coping, so to say. Sociology can only report that these are the things which are happening. So from psychotherapy, we have some kind of glimpses what happens in terms of coping. There is something called acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT. ACT relies on certain flexibilities. It says if we have certain flexibilities in us, we will be able to cope better, accept ourselves better, and commit ourselves to the new situation. Okay, so when I say ACT, it's the first level is we accept the situation as it is, and the second is we commit to change ourselves. So what are the flexibilities we are talking about? As I said, it's about flexibilities. Life has continued for us the same way for so long. We wake up at a particular point of time for most of our life. We go to our workplace at a particular point of time, or schools or college or university at a particular point of time. We return at a particular time. We do certain activities on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, maybe the church service or other things. All things are set. Few things are not set. In the lack of flexibility, what happens is those things which are not set are actually losing significance. For example, you suddenly may think, okay, I'll go out for perhaps an outing or something. Those are lost. Those things which are fixed are not in your control now. Whatever I was defining as my routine and my life is not there. And that's where inflexibility tends to make an impact on us. So rather than accepting things as they are, we tend to say our life was this. Why can't we go back to that life? Emotional connect starts happening because we have done it for so long. We want to emotionally feel, no, it's the past. Let me go to the past. Let me be like that only. And that's where flexibility creation depends on a lot of factors. So what are those factors? The first is acceptance of the situation as it is. If the more we accept, the more we become comfortable with it. I mean, to give a typical example, it happens with all of us. When the situation is totally out of hand and we know we can't do anything about it, we just stop thinking about it. That's one level of acceptance. The other is you accept the fact that we can't do anything about it, but you feel comfortable. Maybe I'll deal with it tomorrow. So acceptance, it can be at two levels. First is my realization, let me not get emotional about it. The second issue is thinking, okay, maybe in future there will be a time, let me be optimistic about it. Second is diffusion. This is a very unique spelling which the psychiatrists use. What they are talking about is don't fuse yourself or don't involve yourself with your emotion. You are feeling anxiety, just think about it, what could be the reason for that anxiety? And reflect on it and then start thinking, can you actually deal with it or is it very important for you? Third is present moment awareness. Can I be less bothered about what's going to happen in the future? What is the situation in the past which perhaps is going against you? Can it be just the present moment rather than worries? Fourth, a very important element is Because our lives are shaped in a particular way, we tend to think that our life should continue this right way. I am like this. My life is like this. So my life is about being me in these definitions, just being working like this only. But I am in a larger context. I belong to a larger society. I belong to a larger situation. How can I be the only determinant of that situation? Can I relate to the context and change myself rather than thinking this has gone wrong with me? This is not what I used to do. This is not the right way of working for me. This is not me, as we often say. Rather than thinking that, can we think that, okay, this is a context in which we have to redefine what me is? And that takes us to the next point. Connecting to what matters to us a lot. Is it our idiosyncratic habits? Is it about the life we have lived? Or is it something very sacred to us? And when we talk of values, I'm not talking of humanism and truthfulness and such values. Values are anything which are so important for us that we will follow them rather than give them up. For example, for some people, adventure is a value. Now, if adventure is a value, how can you be adventurous in current times? Connect to those values, connecting to those values and trying to understand how can you actually deal with those values. And the last point is related to that. Once you are very clear about the values, can you commit to certain action? Do certain things which make you positive. So this is typically the steps that psychotherapists suggest. If you have these elements in you, or if you actually have all the elements in you, your flexibility will be high, and if the flexibility is high, your coping will be easier. But just remember, we have had instances where people indulged, splurged, indulged, for example, in alcohol, indulged in a lot of eating, and they felt good about it. There is something to remember about it, that those kinds of temporary respites ultimately are being revealed as unhealthy lifestyles. So there were some longitudinal, I will not say longitudinal, long-term studies which are being done, which looked at people in the beginning of the pandemic lockdown and afterwards, how they have coped. So in the beginning, a lot of people started having more alcohol. A lot of people started indulging in things which were hedonistic, if we can say so, pleasure related. But as time passed, people started realizing it's not helping. And that temporary indulgence and pleasure has had its own problems. So to think of what was those problems, first related to the eating habits, as we were talking. One thing which happened with many of us is because we did not have access to meat and vegetables and other things, our consumption of carbohydrates increased because this was the easiest thing available for most of us, the grains. Secondly, many of us suddenly became cooks, started trying a lot of things. And that was another reason. The major thing we would try is something to prepare with rice or wheat or any of these cereals. A lot of snacking started because everybody was at home, some social connection was happening through food. Otherwise, there was a lot of conflict in the house. Food was connecting people, and that's why people started having more and more food. This had its own corollary also, a parallel side related to what was happening to our fitness. Most of us felt that there is a decrease in exercise, either because of lethargy or because of not having the opportunity. Weight gain, another problem. For people who are diabetic, many people stop checking their blood glucose. This is based on a research study only. Mental stress generally increased in people who were with type 2 diabetes. But yes, there were certain positive things also. Because we were trying to purchase a lot, we started purchasing a lot of fruit and vegetables, and because we had purchased, we started consuming them. But overall, if you look at it, there were always challenges to coping. The first was we did not have enough of those flexibilities which we were talking about acceptance, self as context, actioning. All those were missing. Second thing was because we are splurging, we were into so much of pleasure, there has always been a problem. In fact, many of us are in the same condition right now also. So having discussed all this, let us now also look at how to cope. Now, from here, I will just say things which I have come to know through psychologists, counselors, and psychiatrists. This is not based on any researchers. That's the limitation of this particular study. which I'm talking about, the first thing most of the psychiatrists started pointing out to me, and many of the other interactions we had, was the more interactions we have, the better it will be for us. So the hour of talking on the phone you do, it may be creating certain dependencies, but it's not a bad thing. The only thing is, the moment you start feeling it's a dependency of sorts, why not perhaps find other sources of it also? Have more people to talk to. The more you interact, the more you feel connected to the world, the social world, and that's why interactions are important. Joining fora. For example, let me be very honest. I got to know of Professor Sharmistha and through Professor Birpal Singh, because Professor Birpal Singh was a part of certain fora, and I am a part of certain fora along with Dr. Birpal Singh. So those foras are helping us connect. That social capital we were talking, the networks we had lost. Maybe these fora as networks can be a little helpful. Just remember, because we are in a fora, we have a common interest. Because we have a common interest, we are not a threat to each other. And that's why our support may be much more than the usual support systems we had. Third important thing is a thing which many psychiatrists have mentioned. One of the problems which happened in such conditions is we wake up and we don't know what to do. What a psychiatrist is suggesting is, which was actually circulated in a lot of WhatsApp videos also, can we set some small daily goals? Some daily goals about targets for the day itself. For example, making the bed, making sure by this time I do so much exercise. Those are the daily ones. Also, there can be some targets or other things for the larger life. Certain things you have not been able to do all your life. For example, for me, this was a time to, also, of course, my physique doesn't show it, but I used to be a dancer at one point of a time. So this was the time I reconnected with dance. Many of the people have done that. One of my colleagues, he had learned tabla very, very early in his life. So he joined a course of tabla online and he learned it again. So that's what is the second part of the goals. Things we have not done, but which we value. It could be for career reasons or hobby reasons. Can we join them and motivate ourselves on a regular basis? Nobody else is going to do it. Just remember, we are doing it for ourselves. Self-motivate ourselves, that we have to do. How do we self-motivate? Have a feeling, okay, I will do this much, and if I do this much, I will try it. For example, I learned one tukla of tabla, and once I have looked at the particular tukla of tabla, I'll record it and share it with my friends. Maybe that's the motivation to share it. Maybe it's a motivation that I have to complete so much. That completion itself becomes a motivation. Important thing, although indirectly I'm saying that you should be on social media, or maybe ironically, I can't say that we should totally quit it, but we can definitely reduce. Why reduce time on social media? The reason is negativities are very high. And one of the biggest sources of negativity comes from our mobile. All the apps on the mobile are introducing us to negative news. Can we reduce it? It's actually not difficult. It takes a practice of some 7 days. If I remember, that's what the psychiatrist was saying. What he was saying is, you just switch off the data, switch off the Wi-Fi, keep the mobile away, do something which you find meaningful. So for 2 hours, don't check it, then increase it to 4 hours. By perhaps 7 days, you can actually be free of control, free of the problems of social media addiction. Another thing many of the psychiatrists are suggesting is doing certain exercises or activities which connect us to us. So I've used the common term mindfulness. Of course, there are mindfulness exercises which are available in plenty online, on YouTube and other sources. But whatever exercise you are using, whether it's dance, music, any of those things which makes you connect to yourself, that's good enough. Another thing, please don't hesitate in seeking help. We are all anxious. We are all in a difficult time. We don't have solutions. We don't know what's going to happen. And unfortunately, many of us either have a loss of income, have lost our jobs, and we don't know how to cope with it. The negativity is so much. How do I turn positive? The positivity can only come when you are ready to admit that something is wrong. You are not the content as you are talking, you are a context. You are in a particular context of time, and that's why you are facing it. You are not the one who was the great manager or the great professor. Right now, you are a great manager or professor in a context. Context is difficult for everybody. Can we actually seek help and be available? And mind you, there are many counselors which are doing online sessions right now. I can of course share link with of some of the people. You can always get anybody if they want to get in touch. You can get in touch with the people also. Another thing is, if we are okay or if we are not very okay also, can we be the support system for others? Just as we are having a difficult time, can we actually ensure others who are having a difficult time can kind of find reassurance through us? So this is one set of things which relates to us as individuals. Now, another thing which is happening as far as the coping issues are concerned is relationships. So for relationships, some of the tips and guidance which I have received from the psychiatrist is, if you are finding that it's a very significant relationship and you don't want it to go sour or to break it up, there is online counseling available for relationships. Please go for it. Don't be afraid. Most of us don't know how to solve these situations. For example, there are people whose partner or spouse is in another place and they are at another place. So breakups are happening online. Now, we don't have to just start feeling that, okay, it has happened and I'm over with it. You are just not over with it. There is an emotional baggage. Be ready for it. Are there things we can still do together? One of the things which many of the psychiatrists are suggesting, and in fact, I became a part of it, was online potluck. It seems very, very effete, very, very superficial, but actually it connects very well. So people have cooked food at their own place, but they're in a common conference and sharing the food. I mean, discussing while having the food.
Right.
Yeah.
So actually, due to time limits, no, we have to.
Okay, fine. So the last few points, have good memories, avoid too much news, and focus on the positive things which are happening in life. So with that, the last point, of course, work from home. It does not mean that you are working perhaps from 6 to midnight. You have to find time for yourself. If you don't find time, there will be difficulties. So I'm sorry if I've exceeded my time. I conclude my session. These are a few of the references, if you can see them. And my sincere thanks to Professor Birpal Singh, Dr. Sharmishta Chakravarti, principal and colleagues. And of course, my thanks to all the psychiatrists who have helped me. Thank you.
Ma'am, your mic is off. Please turn on.
Thank you, sir. Professor ANIMESH presentation is so apt in this ongoing pandemic of COVID-19, which has not only adversely affected the economy and social integrity, but has also led to the rising concern about the mental health challenges across population. Thank you, sir, for your valuable suggestions on ways to overcome the mental health challenges that we all are facing during the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you so much, sir. And now we have with us Professor Birbal Singh, who is currently a faculty in Panchayat Administration and Nyaya Panchayat, National Law Institute University at Bhopal. He has more than 20 years of teaching experience, and he has also worked in national and international projects such as UNDP and NLIU, Ministry of Justice, Government of India projects, and many more. He has more than 40 publications, which have been published in the journals of international as well as national reviews and chapters and books, and also authored 3 books. Apart from academic duties and administrative responsibility, he has also been engaged in research and training activities. And besides delivering lectures on the issues of tribal rights and forests and gender in law in different academic institutions and academically involved with state public services commission of some of the states. He has participated in more than 50 conferences, seminars, workshops in the capacity of paper presenter, resource person, key speaker, chairing the session, and organizer, etc. He is the life member of many key academic research bodies like Ethnographic and Folk Culture Society, Indian Sociological Society, Indian Society of Criminology, and Indian National Confederation, Academy of Anthropologists, etc. And today, he will be presenting to us on the topic Social Challenges and Self-Management in Post-COVID-19. Sir, we welcome you.
Thank you. I hope I already opened the PPT. I have to share. No? Oh, just a minute. Hello. Hello, everyone.
Yes, sir.
Hello, hello, sir.
Hello,
Yes,
sir.
Just I am sharing my PPT. Then I will start. Why it is not coming?
Yes. Not that, sir.
Why it is not coming?
Sir, just
Yeah.
select window, particular window, sir. Not entire screen.
No, I have opened the window, but it's not coming. Yes.
Sir, you need to open the
Yes.
PDF.
Now I think it will come. Okay. Now it's visible.
Okay, right. You got it.
Hello. Now it is visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So, respected Professor Benny K. John, Principal Holy Cross College, my colleague Dr. Sarmishta Chakravarti, Ms. Sentinella, and Mr. Joel Dorlon, Dr. Pankaj Chakravarti, and other members of the team who are behind this event, my friend Professor ANIMESH BAHADUR, and all the dear participants and friends. A very, very warm good evening to all of you, with the hope that you all are in good health and safe. The topic which I have selected, that is the social challenges and self-management in post-COVID-19. Though COVID is still continuing, but we are in a transition phase. So that's why I mentioned the prefix here, post-COVID-19. Whole world is struggling or fighting with this invisible enemy, and which is dominating the world day by day, and every structure of the society has been disturbed because of the effect of COVID-19. Okay, there are some pics, moving pics which I have selected. Okay, I have organized my lecture into three aspects or three main parts. Beginning from the first, that is the education. Since we are in academia, definitely I would like to focus on academic challenge which we as a faculty and students both are facing. Okay, so first part is especially about the education. Second, the kind of the challenges whole world, especially in our country, we are facing. Those challenges are already mentioned by our previous speaker, Professor ANIMESH, but he'll get some more insights about those challenges, the dimensions of those challenges, the intensity of those challenges. And third, I'll again come on the education, that is the constraints of online education, the greater challenge which in academia we as a teacher or students are facing. And then the third part will conclude with some sort of solutions, how to cope or how to develop self-management to cope with this existing situations. Okay, so these are the three components of my discussion here. And before beginning, as you know, the whole world is struggling, and health is always said as wealth, and which is very, very essential for our survival. So I'll begin my lecture here with the Sanskrit sloka that reflect the importance of health in the life of human beings. To begin this, Punarvittam, Punarmitram, Punarbharya, Punarmahim, Etas Sarvam, Punarlabhyam, Na Sariram, Puna Puna. The meaning in English of this Sanskrit sloka is such that everyone must keep in mind that wealth, a friend, a wife, and a kingdom may be regained, but when this body is lost, may never be acquired again. So this shows the importance of health in the life of human beings, and the present unprecedented crisis has created disorder in the society. This whole world or every society, community is fighting, struggling, has developed various kind of the mental psycho structures on their physical part, on their social part. So health became more prominent because of the health which is affecting, lives are going. So health has become one of the important component of present crisis. Coming to the first aspect of this presentation, that is the education. Why it is essential? Because education is the only aspect which ultimately leads us towards development, towards consciousness, towards awareness, and towards sensitizations. So that education may be informal or formal. Some of the references are here. One of the article of the Constitution also mentioned here that equal access to education institutions maintained by the state without discrimination on grounds only of religion. It means it talks about the equality of each and every person in the society so far their educational rights are concerned. And even the government enacted the law in the year 2009 making education is one of the fundamental rights under Article 21A of the Indian Constitution, that government, respect to state, going to facilitate free and compulsory education to the children from 6 to 14 years. And this is also one of the Millennium Development Goals and also one of the Sustainable Development Goals, why we need the education. And thus comes the importance of education in the society. And this education, seeing the present crisis, is struggling to get the education, how to learn, how to teach. So it has created a kind of digital division, or other way we can say it has created the importance of ICTs, information, communication, and technology for achieving this development goals. Now, question arises: how will achieve these development goals? Already we are facing situations, crisis in the education arena, and this present crisis has enhanced that arena. And some of the references are here that more than 260 million children, youth around the world who are out of school because of already happening situations in the regions of the world. And then comes how to cope with the present situations. As it is said, the necessity is the mother of invention. And here I would like to mention one of the sociologists and another anthropologist, both are American persons. Their theory is more nearer to this present crisis. And if we all are not adapting with the existing situations, situation will create more alarming situations. So reference here the Talcott Parsons, who has given a model of social system which fits in the present situations or in every situations. And that model is known AGIL, A for adaptation, G for goal attainment, E for integrity, and L for latency. And there is further bifurcated into two, that is the pattern maintenance and tension management. Those who have been the students of sociology as well as the anthropology, they might be knowing this conceptual understanding of Talcott Parsons. So adaptation, how to adapt with the existing situations, then the goal and attainment, economy, how to survive. And then comes the Leslie White, this American anthropologist. He has given the concept of energy theory of culture. So one Talcott Parsons theory of social system, another the energy theory of culture as stated by Leslie White. And according to him, there are four components of any cultural aspects, beginning from the ideological aspect of culture, second one, sociological aspect of culture, third one, technological aspect of culture, and fourth, that is the sentimental aspect of culture. Among all these, it is the technological aspect of culture which is more important, which dominate the order of the society. So country with technologically advanced, definitely that country will be in a position to run its societal affairs, like America, dominant country. And in the present situation, technological tools have become more important or become the necessity of the societal system. We are communicating to each other. It is the technological aspect. Webinars, how to engage people who are far away to you. But this technology has enhanced the system that we are coming together, talking to each other, developing ideas, creating inventions, and talking about so many things that can reduce our anxieties, insecurity, fear, which happened due to this kind of the fatalistic approach because of COVID-19. And thus comes the role of faculties and the education, what is essential for us. What is the role of faculty in such a situations? Should be self-disciplined and well dignified even during this crisis. Guide the students in the right way to reach their destiny, because they have developed various kind of psychosocial symptoms. As faculty members, as a teacher, as a member of society, we are supposed to help them to cope with their situations. Should know their subject deeply and periodically. It is on the part of the faculty members. What is the role of students in such a situations? Should be dedicated and have enthusiasm to get educated despite the odds of the situations. Should make use of resources available. What is the resources available? We have to adapt with these situations, those resources, and try to be benefited. Should have a clear understanding of the purpose of attaining higher education, why we are here, confidence in choice of courses. That is on the part of role of students. Okay, now coming to the second part of this presentation, that is the challenges of this COVID-19 to the people, affected people. But before that, this COVID-19 has also brought many positive changes in the life of the people, more about their social lives. And that has changed both emotional as well as the social outlook of the people in the society, in the family, among their friends and other near and dearers. Spending time with family in person. You can, because lockdown is there, breakdown there, you can't go outside. Restrictions are there. Even if mobility is there, that we have restricted mobilities. So we are spending more time with the family persons, learning more about each other, knowing ifs and buts of others, being in the present at home, less pollution, environmental has become more clean. Other aspect, because less pollution, less noise, learning about technology as a tool, how to cope with the situations. These are some positive aspects. And remember, change is ubiquitous. Every society tends to change, and disasters are also the part of life. Okay, if you see in India, every year more people are dying because of TB and malaria than this coronavirus. So we have to adapt, we have to face, we have to struggle, we have to adjust. So what are negative? And that negative has created too much intensification in the social order of the society, beginning from the family to society at large. What are those? Already my friend mentions. Stress during an infectious disease outbreak can sometimes cause the following. What are those things? Fear and worry about own health and health of your loved ones, your financial situation or job, a loss of support services you rely on. And these are the aspects of social challenges which every person, every family, and society as a whole facing, with exceptions for certain people. Changes in sleep or eating patterns, already talked by Professor ANIMESH, BAHADUR. Worsening of mental health conditions, increased use of technological aspects. So ultimate, this whole change pattern, this whole unprecedented situation has brought major shift both in the life and living of the people. Who are the people? Who are the affected persons? Poverty, extreme poverty and inequality will increase in all countries of the regions. Loss of the jobs, in closure of the factories, all those sources which are acting as a front runner for the survival of the people. The loss of income is primarily affecting the broad state of population that are living in or vulnerable to poverty, and people working in activities that are more exposed to layoff and pay cuts, in general, those in precarious employment. Pay cuts, it's not only about the other sectors, even the faculty members who are engaged in the private universities or institutions, colleges, they are facing these situations. Already some of them are not receiving their salaries. Even those who are receiving the salaries, cut is there. And thus their whole economic standard of living has disturbed. This is the adverse impact of this COVID-19, that people are struggling for their survival. Now, some focus on who are the groups who became more vulnerable, and that has brought a change in their socio-economic structures. Reference here, then the risk on the part of those who are already facing. The pandemic has a discriminating impact on various population groups and their response capacity. The risk of death is greater per kind of the persons because of the higher incidence of pre-existing health conditions such as lung disease, cardiovascular disease and diabetes, and because they lack adequate access to medical care. It means if you are already having these kinds of the ailments, health issues, and somehow you are unlucky and got affected this corona, so your chances of survival become less. This is the very miagri situation in case of COVID attack or this coronavirus attack. The different other socioeconomic impacts reflect the social inequality matrix in the region, which is built around the axis of socioeconomic stratum or social class, gender, life cycle, ethnicity, or race and territory, along with other factors such as disabled, blind people. It means the people having the disabilities, any kind of disabilities, they are now in worse situation to survive, to adjust with the existing situations. Now, some reference about those people are the population affected. Women, the elderly, adolescents, youth, and children, all are one way or other way are affected by indigenous populations, marginalized sections, refugees, migrants. We have seen the situation of migrants when this lockdown is started on from the midnight of 24th March. We've seen the situations, deaths, struggles, issues, trauma, fear, social stigmas, we all have seen, and still that are one way or other way happening. So these people are most affected people because of this factor, because of COVID. The population most at risk are those that depend heavily on the informal economy, occupy areas prone to shocks, have inadequate access to social services or political influence, have limited capacities and opportunities to cope and adapt, and limited or no access of facilities. Children. About women, I have one data here that one report says that 81.6% women in India are engaged in the informal sector, primarily agriculture, and a patchy 5.9% informal sector. So now you can imagine the intensity of the situations, how much it is alarming. Then come the children. They need space. They need time. They need space to play. They need time to go outside. They are becoming sufferer of this unprecedented crisis, and thus developing various type of mental and psychological symptoms as part of their personality structure. Unaccompanied and separated children may be particularly challenging in accessing timely relevant information and health services. Prolonged periods of school closure and movement restrictions may lead to emotional unrest and anxieties, already discussed by my friend. My university also started the online classes. Students are calling, sir, kab khulega? Sir, now it's too much. But I have no answer, because, and nobody has any answer at this moment. The way the cases are coming up, the way cases are increasing. But so anxieties are developed, unrest is happening among the school children, and even the faculty, and whoever inside the home boundaries. These are the certain issues. Heightened parental anxieties and frustration might lead to an increase in violence against children at home, and other kind of the risk. If caregivers are infected, quarantined, or pass away, it could lead to protection in psychological, psychosocial issues for children. So these are the various issues which children are facing, whether from our family structure, others. And here our duty becomes more prompt, more serious. Some children may also face serious mental health issues due to ongoing pandemic. They may exhibit the following signs. What kind of signs are there? Again, difficulties in sleeping and eating, nightmares, being withdrawn or aggressive behavior, complain of pain in stomach or headache without physical reason, having fears, being afraid to be left alone, a kind of the fear psychosis, that I don't know what will happen if things are going as the way it's are going. Clinging, depending behaviors, new fears manifest for instance of the dark, सब अंधेरा दिखाई दे रहा है. Decreased interest in playing and engaging playful activities. Being sad, crying more than usual or for no apparent reasons. Hello, am I audible?
Sir, actually your presentation becomes small.
Hello?
Your presentation becomes small in the screen. Sir.
But here screen is full from
No.
my side.
No, it is okay. That is, someone came in presentation in between. That's why it happened. If you click back, it will come back to the original. Go back to that. This one, madam.
First I have to start sharing, then again I have to share.
No, you don't have to. You are okay, sir. Sir, you are okay. The participants, we can make this one arrangeable.
Okay.
Back from that. Yeah.
So now it is visible.
For me, it is good. It's a full screen. I get it.
So should I continue?
Please continue. Please continue.
Okay. Then persons with disabilities, access to information is often a barrier for persons with a disability who have specific communication needs, and that happened in case of our students as well. If you are having this kind of disability, how this online education will help to impart the education for the benefit of these students. Disabled persons, even the blind persons, we have seen, and we are also sometimes witnessed, we also help sometimes. Seeing a blind person crossing the road, we help him to cross the road. But the present situation, nobody will try to come closer to that person because we may be affected. or even that person may think, so what about the accessibility and mobility of these people, persons with disabilities, elderly persons, already mentioned by friend. The evidence for more serious situations may not understand the information messages provided or be unable to follow the guidelines. As a living facilities, live close to each other and social distancing can be difficult for these people who need every time the help of others. These are the other situations which have been created or developed by this COVID-19. Women and girls make up large parts of health workforce. Already I mentioned data about their involvement in sectors of economy. Women are more likely to be engaged in the informal sector and be hardest hit economically by COVID-19. Cultural factors may exclude women from decision making, especially and restrict their access to information on outbreaks and availability of services. In some cultural contexts, gender roles may dictate women cannot obtain health services independently or from male service providers. Various factors. We are the country of the villages. We are having the orthodox mentality, majority of us. So these factors also sometimes put a fire on the decision making. So कहते हैं आग में घी में आग में घी का काम करना. That is the kind of the situations. Refugees and migrants, the other sectors, the other peoples and migrants are the hardest hit by this pandemic crisis. Legal status, because there is no law which provide benefits, because there are no statistics about the refugees and migrants. So even sometimes government fails to accommodate them, government fails to facilitate the services of their survival. Like other official information, health service information, and government norms may not reach them. I'm reading just here. Refugees and migrants may travel irregularly and inadvertently circumvent health screening and services at border points. People living in existing humanitarian emergencies, health workers, others. High risk of infection if infrastructure may be damaged and people reside in cramped conditions without proper sanitation. And we have seen the doctors, the nurses, the police personnel, all those people who are directly or indirectly involved to provide the better health facility to affected people are not affected. Somehow they also got affected, and we have seen some have also died. This is the intensity of this disease or the effect of this virus. They may lack the access to timely and accurate information due to various reasons, including remoteness and isolation in living situation, lack of documentation and financial resources may hit the health services in these remote areas of the country. Now, these are some components about the happening of this coronavirus and about the people who are being affected with this situations. Now, everyone reacts differently to stressful situations because same situations, but it may have different parameters of effectiveness on the people, on the family, and society at large. People who may respond more strongly to the stress of crisis include people who are at higher risk for severe illness from COVID-19, for example, older people and people of any age with certain underlying medical conditions, mean those who are already having certain kind of health ailments, their risk is more if they are got affected by this. So they are supposed to be more serious while approaching to the people in the societies. Children, teens, people caring for family members or loved ones, frontline workers, just mentioned, people who have existing mental health conditions, people who use substance or have substance use disorders. All people are supposed to be very, very serious in such a situations. Other aspects, people who have lost their jobs. Millions of people have lost their jobs due to this COVID-19. Had their work hours reduced, had other major changes to their employment. Thus, they might develop fatalistic attitudes, a kind of the Durkheimian theory of suicides, as friend already mentioned, that we have seen the rates of suicides have increased. Social facts. Those who are thinking that they are passing their best lifestyle in film industries, and we have seen how many people are already did suicides. So this is a situation happening in every area of the social system. People who have disabilities are developmental delay. People who are socially isolated from others, including people who live alone and people in rural or frontier areas. You may be mentioned here LGBT persons, other many persons who are the part of the isolated society because they have been never considered in mainstream social structure. And thus these people are facing various kinds of the problems in such a situations. People in some racial ethnic minority groups, people who do not have access to information in their primary languages. Same may happen in case of this online education. Because teaching in face-to-face situations is not only impart the knowledge, it also impart the build the relations, emotional bindings, social bindings. So primary language, we can't provide assignments, tasks in the primary language if the software is not available. These are some other issues. People experiencing homelessness, people who live in remote settings again. Some good teaching. I am skipping this slide. Now, issues and challenges for teachers. Coming to the third part of that is the education. First part, general, why education is important. Second, the affected people whom this corona has affected. And now, what are the challenges before us, before academia, and how to cope with these existing challenges in terms of our teaching learning process. What are the challenges? Challenges places the onus on the teachers to upskill themselves in competencies such as subject expertise, classroom communication, content planning and development, student assessment, and technology tools. One of the most important aspects of present education system, seeing the increasing adverse impact of this COVID-19 to capitalize on the emerging opportunity in schools in India and abroad as well as in online teaching. Further, lack of standardized content for regional languages, already I mentioned. Children studying regional language are at the disadvantage. There is not much standardized content available at online for them. And you as a teacher, you are even can't deliver everything online. You are supposed to be very specific in your approach while delivering lecture online. So the informal chat which we have in classroom teaching, we lack here, we can't do here. And thus definitely it affects our whole teaching learning process. The other challenges which academia or society as whole is facing, that is the digital divide in terms of accessibility, affordability, and availability of infrastructures and facilities as well. So this has created a digital divide. What kind of divide? That global broadband continues to show healthy growth, although there are some challenges in terms of what are those challenges? Challenges of connectivity, accessibility. Okay, I am talking right now, but I don't know if next moment if electricity supply goes, so how I will be able to impart or to communicate to each other. So these are certain issues. Making internet access more affordable in developing countries. Some data says that in our country, if 90 crore population is having, 90% population is having mobiles, out of that 90% population, 40% population is having only featured phone or smartphones. So now you can imagine that remaining chunk of the population, whether the students or the family members will be in a position to give the education to their children. This is the reference of the digital divides. A Facebook study 2017 just mentioned here around revealed that on average 94% of population of these 75 countries lives within the range of a 2G mobile signal. Only 76% of world's population lives within excess of a 3G signal, and only 43% of people have access to a 4G connection. Thus, the majority of the connected world remains underconnected, most of them in developing countries, and we are the part of developing countries. My own students who are living in Jammu and Kashmir, either they call me because the government has restricted, ban is there regarding the this 4G speed of the internet. They are 2G. They are finding very difficult to get their lectures properly, and they are calling sometimes, sir, please record jaroor kar lijiyega, so that I can send them later and they can listen carefully. So they are the various issues which ultimately acts as a speed breakers for the imparting of our educational knowledge or the teaching and learning process. What are the main factors in this connectedness of the internet? Lack of infrastructure, non-affordability, lack of skills, lack of digital content. These are the other issues which ultimate bar the aspect society. And education in India, now coming back on this aspect, we have already having this crisis. All are not getting the educations. It may have the various social culture regions. So what is the situation here? And this pandemic has enhanced situation in a more alarming way. The government has succeeded in getting children into school with nearly 100% enrollment, but 1/4 dropout after class 8 and over half after the class 10. The dropout rates for girls and those from the marginalized sections are higher, and we all are quite well about these huge dropout rates. So, and this pandemic situation has created more. The people who already migrated from urban centers because job was not there, factories were closed, even the Makan Malik, the rents, they told them that please vacate my house because you are not in position to pay the rent and I am not in positions to allow you to live. Those people who already migrated now in their villages are their own native places. What about the education of their children? These are some core issues, or there are some core social challenges. Why social? It has not affected one family or one society. Whole society, as with exceptions, has affected, and that's it become a kind of social challenges. These are the core issues. Further, some other study shows that 188 countries have imposed countrywide school closures affecting more than 1.5 billion children and youth. The potential losses that may accrue in learning for today's young generation and for the development of their human capital are hard to fathom. More than 2/3 of countries have introduced a national distance learning platform, and this distance learning platform is not new. Even our country, when in 1985, this Digital India program was launched by then the government of late Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, and the same year Indira Gandhi National Open University came into existence, and that paved the way for the distance learning education in the country. But what is the situation on the other side? How many are really in a position to avail these facilities? But among low-income countries, the share is only 30%. Before this crisis, almost 1/3 of the world's young people were already digitally excluded. So this is the digital divide. Now see the vast chunk statistic of the school and college in our country. This is the latest data available on the agencies. 15 lakh schools, 1,028 universities, 41,901 colleges, and 10,726 stand-alone institutions. The number of students going to school are 33 crores, and only 10.3% of them have internet facilities. One question, that is the internet facilities. Second, accessibility of internet, whether network is coming or not. So it is not only about the online, even the phones, even if you want to impart education through the phones, we have also the issue of connectivity, signals. So these are the challenges. What are the challenges? Affordability, whether everyone, a family of 10 members, 5 members, whether they are in a position to afford the mobiles, laptops, even if you afford the mobiles, but if you have 3 children, 4 children, other members of the family, whether it is easy to afford? No. And even if we have mobiles, whether we can perform every task only on the mobiles, assignments, making on the projects, it's not possible. So affordability is the one of the basic question which act as a hurdle for the developmental aspects. Availability, accessibility, and then the acceptability. How many of us really techno savvy? How many of us really accepted this, that we have to adapt with the situations? People say, okay, let it go. Why too much worried? Ho jayega, dekha jayega. So accessibility is equally important. So these are the 4 kind of challenges which society is facing in present situations. Further, some aspects here. It is challenging to develop content which not only covers the curriculum but also engage the students in online situations. Ensuring digital equity is crucial in this tough time. Not all the teachers and students have access to all digital devices, internet and Wi-Fi. Even the teachers, salaries are already not there. A cut is there. On the side, they have been forced to purchase laptop, others. It's not possible for a teacher which is getting minimum salary but having more number of family members to survive on his own salary. So there are some difficult situations. There are the crisis periods, and that's why we need a crisis management. Then comes, as my friend mentioned in the beginning, electricity is one of the major essentials. The government of the country claims that 99.9% rural electrification has been done, but the ground reality is far away. I am a person who belongs to rural India. I know, yes, and electricity comes, but when it comes, sometimes 8 and 9 hours, and some areas, some villages, we have the poles, we have the hanging wires, but there's no electricity. These are the ground realities. And for this internet connectivity, for the mobiles, for the laptops, we need the electricity. These are the challenges, how to cope with the situations if we are the part of academic structures. This is a reference of how government is facilitating the people, needy people and other structures. I'm not going in that detail. Okay, so there are various kind of the challenges. Then further challenges, as per National Statistical Office reports, only 20% of Indian households have an internet facility. What about others? 68.8% India's population lives in rural areas, and only a little over 15% among them have access to internet connections. I'm giving just one example here. When this lockdown started, and my university also declared that from 14th March onwards, university will close. One of the students came to me and he requested, sir, don't allow me to go to my home because, sir, I belong to typical village. There is no electricity facility, and it will become very difficult for me, sir, in such a situation, to prepare my projects work, to complete my other class works, prepare examinations. So these are not about one of my students, they are about some millions of students in the country. And I allowed, though my vice chancellor was not willing to allow him, but I allowed, and that student, along with 2 other students, one from Kerala and one from Shillong, Meghalaya, they lived almost 3 months and left the hostel in the month of June. So these are the situations which country as a whole facing. Further, gender stereotypes, genders, that males, bhaiya will begin everything, but bitiya will not begin anything. It means daughters will not avail the facilities, but sons will be given preference when the infrastructure facilities are concerned. This is a reference here. The gender dividing internet usage is also stark. As per the Internet and Mobile Association India report, it's not too old report, 2019, while 67% men had access to internet, this figure was only at 33% for women. What about the rest of the women? The disparity is more prominent in rural India, where the figures are 72% and 28% for men and women, respectively. So these are the various issues as well as the challenges for the betterment or for the growth and development of each and every sections of the society without any kind of gender biasness, without any kind of the marginalizations which we are faced. Now, coming to the last parts, already discussed by friends, how to cope with all these situations, what to do, how to adapt. So self-management in post-COVID-19, healthy ways to cope with the stress, how to do that, what to do if you are sick and are concerned about, contact a health professional before you start any self-treatment for COVID-19. It means you are supposed to be more consciousness. Don't become self-made doctor in such a situations. Second, know where and how to get treatment and other support services and resources, including counseling or therapy, in person or through telehealth services, which doctors and other psychologists are providing. So you should or must have the numbers of these people in case emergency arrives. Take care of your emotional health, which is more important to reduce your burden, to reduce your fear, to reduce your insecurity. So being in touch with your friends, with your colleagues, with the members of the family, taking care of emotional health will help you think clearly and react to the urgent need to protect yourself and your family. Further, take breaks from watching, reading, or listening to news stories, including those on social media. Hearing about the pandemic repeatedly can be upsetting, but you have to restrict yourself to social media, because too much listening, too much disturbing. So better not to watch too much. Try to mingle with your own friends, your colleagues, your family members, rather than wasting time on social media and just unnecessary inviting the troubles in the name of pandemic. Further, 2 more slides. Be gentle with yourself and with those around you. Calmness, softness is both are required. Limit your social media, already mentioned. Set a routine for you and your loved ones to help build consistency. Weather permitting, if it permits, if your area permits, just have a walk either in the morning or evening. If it permits, don't try to break the rule of law. Okay, figures out a way to help. The various measures, and this reference comes to scholars. They believe that being connected to other people is one of the most powerful tools we have for our physical and mental health. And I think this webinar mode has given much relief to academic people as well as others people, that one way or other way somehow they are engaged, and thus they are not becoming the part of anxiety as such. So webinar is one of the solutions. Then taking care of mental health during, references are here. Keep in touch with friends, family, regular daily routine, get plenty of sleep and eat nutritious meals. Remember that this period of self-isolation is temporary. So change is ubiquitous. Change will again come. So temporary period will again adjust, will again adapt. Okay, with the situations. Mental services are available if you are feel anxious, worried, or overwhelmed. Try to contact your people. And then solution, in the words of one of the thinker, scholar, Fisher, Don Depot, the co-principal investigator at the Borderless Higher Education for Refugee study conducted. What is his statement? And with this his statement, I would like to conclude my presentation. We are in a world where conflict and environmental destruction are going to have lots of people, families, and communities living in precarious contexts. The willingness of post-secondary institutions to step up and engage and provide opportunities for those people will never be as large as the need. Further, the only way we can even make a dent in this is to learn to collaborate and cooperate across institutions and across time and spatial boundaries. The only way really to do that is to rely on technology to create conditions to allow people to collaborate. So cooperation, coordination are the need of the hour, and everybody had to adjust with that, whether you or me or your other near and dears. With all these words, thank you all for listening my presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir, for highlighting to us the social challenges faced by different strata of society, along with the sociological concepts that are evident in the coronavirus era, and also enlightening us with the healthy ways to cope with stress during this pandemic. Thank you so much, sir. And now we are going to begin our answering the question session now. Now I give time to Mr. Joel Darlong.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm so sorry I will not be able to show my face because I'm suffering from chickenpox. Okay, sir, there is first of all to Professor Dr. ANIMESH BAHADUR. Sir, actually you have got 7 questions. The first and second question is from Rubina T. That is, how are we to identify depression? Is being okay with confinement, staying at home and not interacting enough, a single depression? And the second one was, I would also love to hear if there are any report on LGBTQIA plus community and if there are any support systems for them. Sir.
Okay, should I start?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there is this, what we say, there are series, a continuum of things. We have stress, that is, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the first level is stress. Stress is when my moods are not the ones which they used to be in the past. All that starts from that situation. I may be somebody who's very energetic in the morning, gets a little low in the afternoon, and suddenly gets a spurt of energy even in the evening. Am I continuing the same way now? Has my set of moods changed? Set of feelings changed? That is the measure of stress. And why would it change? Typically, I am finding some strain in life. Either the pressures of life have increased or something which is very taxing to me is happening. So suddenly my set of moods changes, my set of feelings changes. That's the measure of stress. But stress has two sides. Little stress is very helpful. Unless you feel that is stress, you will not act on it. Because you feel the stress of exam, you prepare well for it. Okay, so that's one level of stress. The other side of stress is what we call distress. When on a continuous basis you are feeling that stress, you don't have an answer what to do about it, and then that stress causes a lot of psychological as well as somatic bodily changes. For example, sweating increases. Some people have this tendency of coughing a lot at times. Coughing may have nothing to do with any of the ailments. It may be a simple fact that their body wants to show that it's not able to cope. That's stress. Now comes the second level, depression. Depression is identified based on continuity of this lack of positive moods. If for a continuous period of time, more than 10 days, you feel that you are not getting positive moods, that is feeling happy, feeling good and all that, continuously you are feeling low, at least for 10 days, in fact more than that, then you perhaps have some soul searching to do what has happened. Now, if there are two things to identify with stress, depression. All of us have some level of depression at some point of time in our lives. It's not as if anybody is free of depression. We all go through it sometime in life, but if it persists, then it becomes a problem. And persistence, why does it happen? It's not simply that we are not coping and there is something wrong with us. It's because of biochemical reasons. There are some salts and some chemicals which have to flow in our body. Sometimes our body fails to produce them. For example, oxytocin and all these things, they are not produced. And that's why we have to approach a doctor at that time. The doctor gives the right medicines which give the right salts to us. And that's why taking medical support in conditions of depression is not a wrong thing. It's actually an encouraged thing. The doctor would also know when to give you that particular medicine or not give that medicine. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second point is sitting at home and feeling that I don't want to go out. That's not a sign of depression in most cases. See, there is something called our personality. Some of us, by very nature, are introverts. That is, we get our energy or good feeling by thinking about things rather than getting energy by being with other people. Those are extroverts. So introversion could be a reason why I'm very happy being at home. But when I'm at home for a continuous period of time, am I feeling very low also, very depressed also, very sad also? Then there is some cause for concern. A lot of things in depression can be answered through simple things, what we call openness, centered and engaged. That is talking about it, doing exercises and other things, and getting yourself busy in things. But certain times medicine becomes very important. The question about LGBT, yes, the COVID pandemic has had many major impacts. I'll take a cue from what Professor Sharmishta and Professor Birpal have said already. There is an economic gap between the LGBT communities. So there is, for example, the Hijra, Aravani, and all those communities who are very resource poor. They did not even have food to have. For them, special arrangements were made through charities to feed them. There are NGOs which are working to feed the Hijra community right now. Secondly, for what about the people who are typically, perhaps not typically transgender or anything, but they tend to be very different in their behaviors. They've had a very difficult problem because they were staying at home. Family is not okay many times with such people. Okay, so that's where this answer comes. There are other questions. As time permits, I can take them.
Yes, there is more, sir. Okay, third and fourth, there is more questions, sir.
Yeah.
Third and fourth question is by Teresa Lingdo. The third one is, what are the behavior of bipolar person? And the fourth one is, we are still living in COVID-19, not post-COVID-19, but UGC wanted to conduct exam to PG and final year UG. Will this create stress, tension, and fear, and not only to students, but to teachers also, as the case is increasing day by day in India?
Okay, fine. The bipolar question I'll take. I think the other one, many more people are actually capable of answering it. The bipolar question, the answer is, the identification is mood swing. One day you are behaving one way, the other day you start behaving another way. It's not that your personality has changed. One day you are full of energy, you are talking a lot. Other day you are so low that you have just stopped interacting with anybody. You are back in your shell. And it's for some people, it can happen in the same day. Morning, you are very high on energy. Evening, you are very low on energy. Bipolar is basically moving between two poles. One pole is high energy, the other pole is low energy. Now, this happens many times on a daily basis to everybody. Does it happen on a regular basis? That you observe for at least 15 days and you observe that many times this has happened again and again. It may typically start with some kind of stress and anxiety only, or with depression only, and it can go to bipolar. Only in those cases it is a bipolar, and that's why it's always advised for any detection or understanding of bipolar, it's best to go to a psychiatrist. As far as the other question is concerned, my take is, yes, there are some stresses with exams, but more important is the fact that, ma'am, we have to live with this. Now it's a reality that we have to think of alternatives. In fact, I'll just give an example. I'll give the caveat, because I'm in a private B school, we have a lot more resources compared to many other institutes. And that's why we could invest in an online platform which actually proctors, that is, invigilates the exams, and we are able to take care of that. That's not possible for everybody. But yes, there are alternatives which government is helping us with, and there are others. I mean, others can comment better on it as far as I know.
Okay, thank you, sir. Actually, the other 5, 6, 7 questions are related to that only: stress, depression, and regression. Okay. Over to Professor Birpal Singh, sir. The first question is by Rubina T again. Do you think conducting online classes increases the stress for low-income families? And if yes, how can we justify the qualities of education when there are communities who are deprived of such resources to internet or electronics devices? Sir.
Sir,
Singh?
your microphone is not on.
We all have to adapt with the situations. As already I mentioned in my presentation, that what about those marginalized sections of the society? This is the duty of not only the government, but ours as well. Wherever the area we are living, somehow we have to manage, we have to facilitate the education of those needy children with our own informal efforts. Then only we can cope with these situations, because everybody is not in a position to avail affordability. I already mentioned some 4 components to afford these tools, technological tools. Even they are in a position, they are not techno savvy. So I think we had to adjust ourselves, we had to adapt with the situations, and that's why government also started. Even in the panchayats, I was just reading on the net that in one village, what the sarpanch did, he, with the help of the loudspeakers in the early morning 9 to 10, he is giving to education to his children of those who are school coming children. So I think we have to also innovate. We also to create various measures to help, and that's the last one: coordination and cooperation. Everyone has to contribute at this moment. Whatever way you can contribute for the betterment of the society and betterment of the people at large. I think.
Okay, sir, the second one is there.
Okay.
Discrimination happening to corona survivors upon community to community. How to deal with this kind of situations? This is from Joel De Burma.
It's very simple answer. Who constitute community? Who constitute community? I think we people constitute the community. So if 1 or 2 persons or sections of they are having certain type of social stigma or stereotypings, I think the society as a whole, the other people are supposed to come forward to tell them that what you are doing, that's not good, that's not correct, that's not the right, because these are the people ultimate, they are working for us, for me. And you have seen that when this attack started on the people who involved, the health workers, police, now that has reduced. So it is our duty, the duty of the society. We people, we create the society, we create the community to come forward and to minimize such kinds of the happening of such kinds of the incident if it are happening anywhere. Yeah? And we have to change the mindset of the people who are having some kind of, I think, some such type of symptoms rather than the attitudes. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. Due to shortage of time, I will handle over to Ma'am Sarmista.
If we have time, can I take the question on regression?
Okay, okay. Yes, sir.
Fine. Regression is a very unique situation which generally does not happen in adulthood. Regression typically happens when you are very young, and that time, because you are playing, you are with friends, that goes away as well. But in adulthood, if regression happens, support from family and some kind of meditation and mindfulness exercises are very helpful. Okay, talking out to people and connecting to the current, these are the 2 things which are generally suggested when it comes to regression. Okay, but among adults, regression is not a very common element. Okay, fine. So that's the thing I wanted to add.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, sir. Over to Ma'am Santiela.
Now we will have vote of thanks delivered by Dr. Pankaj Chakrabarty, Associate Professor and Academic Dean of Holy Cross College.
Thank you, madam. Respected Dr. Father Benny K. John CSC, our respected Principal, Holy Cross College, Agartala, our respected resource persons, the organizers, dear participants, a very good evening to you all. We have come to the end of today's national webinar, which was entitled as Social Challenges and the Importance of Self-Management During COVID-19 Pandemic, organized by the Department of Sociology, Holy Cross College, Agartala. It was really a webinar that was organized on a nice topic, relevant and meaningful topic, which is very important when we especially look at the students, the teachers, and the community during this pandemic. We all are dealing with the stress, and it is very important for us to know the skills to manage ourselves during this pandemic. In the beginning, I would like to take this opportunity to thank, on behalf of the Department of Sociology and on behalf of Holy Cross College community, to Professor Dr. ANIMESH BAHADUR Sir, Chairperson, HR Management, Organization Behavior and Communications Area, TAPMI Management Institute, Manipal. Sir, it was a wonderful session by you. I was very sincerely following your session, and I personally have gained a lot from your session, and I'm sure all the students, members of faculty, and all the participants who have listened to you must have gained a lot from your particular presentation. I, on behalf of Holy Cross College, on behalf of the Department of Sociology, and on behalf of all of us who is part of this particular webinar, thank you for being with us today and sharing your views with us. Thank you, sir. I also take this opportunity to thank Professor Birpal Singh, Faculty, Panchayat Administration and Nagar Panchayat, National Law Institute, University, Bhopal, MP. Sir, your deliberations really generated interest among all the participants, and it is very clear from the questions to both the presenters that our participants were really interested, and I personally too learned a lot from your presentation. I again thank you on behalf of everyone listening to this particular presentation and particular program. I thank Professor Birpal Singh for his valuable speech, his deliberations, and for his sharings. Thank you, sir. I am grateful to Dr. Father Benny K. John, CSC, the principal of Holy Cross College, who is always ready to support and help and give guidance to all the departments of the college and college academics as a whole, especially during this time of pandemic, giving the academic freedom to organize such webinars, which every day is enriching us. We are having a lot of webinars organized by Holy Cross College, and this was one of the most important webinars that we had. I thank Father Benny for all the support, help, and guidance on behalf of Department of Sociology and on behalf of all the members of faculty. My thanks are due to Dr. Sharmishta Chakravarti, HOD Department of Sociology, Holy Cross College, Agartala, for her tireless efforts, meticulous planning, and all the tensions and sleepless nights she had to make this program successful. Madam Sharmishta, a very big thanks to you for giving us this opportunity to listen to such great speakers. My heartfelt thanks to Ms. Joel Darling and Ms. Santila, the faculty members of the Department of Sociology, and all the faculty members who have contributed to make this particular event successful. I thank all the participants, the technical staff, Mr. Jinesh Augustian, and everyone who was part of this particular webinar. I thank you all for making this webinar a successful one, for being such a wonderful audience, for interacting with our resource persons, and for your participation. If I have missed anybody's name in the list, please pardon me. I want to thank each and everyone who is connected with this webinar on behalf of the Department of Sociology and on behalf of Holy Cross College. Thank you very much, and look forward to have many more like this. Thank you.
And thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Of
Thank you,
Sociology Department. Yes, thank you, Father.
thank you all. Yeah. Thank you, all. It was a wonderful session, very beneficial. Thank you, professors. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.